something I saw during early voting over the summer in Louisiana. There were a number of police cars parked at our early voting sites, right? It's not, sometimes there's just one car, right? But when there are four, it's intimidation, right? You have to make note of it. And many folks have election protection hotlines. We have a hotline. There is a standard election protection hotline that the Lawyers Committee uses. Please leverage those hotlines and give your voter registrars a call if you ever notice anything like that, right? But the other thing I want to say also is changing the narrative. That's where we begin in terms of encouraging folks to change their minds, right? But beyond changing the narrative, we have to actually bring that voice to the people, to meet people where they are, right? And just an example of hosting convenings and creating spaces where people can have these safe conversations. When I walked into this particular facility, we were doing this work with GED candidates at a local facility, an organization that provided that service to folks. And as soon as I walked in, they knew what the conversation was going to be about. And there's a brother, he had gold teeth, he had tattoos on his face, and the first thing he said to me was, "I ain't voting. I don't care what you say." And he said it a little bit spicier than that, but that's the first thing he hit me with. By the end of the conversation on that, by the end of us sharing that narrative on why it's important, that history, not just that people died for the right to vote, you have to tell them how they died in Colfax, Louisiana. 300 people all at one time died trying to register to vote, right? And so when you share that narrative, when you share that conversation, and when you have wholesome conversations about the process, not just get out there and vote, but here are the mechanisms to do it. There was one slide I wanted to show where you can see the full system of voting in your state that exists in every state, right? And we can share that at a later date. And all of those slides we can share with participants through Jeff. But the last thing I want to say is by the time we walked out of that set, he said, "I want to register, but how?" And I'm like, "We have laptops right here, right? So in fact, let everyone line up. Let's register to vote online right now, right?" And so we were able to land that conversation, catch that person who said from the jump that they didn't want to vote. And by the end of the narrative conversation on that narrative, that person wanted to cast a ballot, right? And so I just wanted to remind folks that it's not as easy as saying, "Hey, you got the right to vote, go out and exercise it and go out and leverage it." We actually have to have these conversations, these hard, intricate conversations with folks, sometimes on an interpersonal level to get there, right? And during the pandemic, it's very difficult, right? You know, all of us have been leveraging Zoom to a certain extent, but that's our primary platform, and that's where we have to meet folks at right now.